hypothetically, let's say for the argument, today is Christmas Day, and I go up to you and I say, hey, Bill, how are you today? Oh, I'm doing wonderful on this Christmas Day, the holiday that we celebrate every winter to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. And also, we love the tradition of Santa Claus and how we have to leave a plate of cookies and a glass of milk on the table for him to take every night and leave presents underneath the tree. How is your day going? That would be a weird way to have a conversation, especially on Christmas Day, because both you, Bill, and we all know what Christmas is. We don't need to go over that. And sometimes we can fall into this trouble in writing where we just give all this expository dialogue or just exposition poorly, because often it doesn't make sense for it to be there in the first place. So if you couldn't guess, I'm talking about exposition today, and specifically just some of the ideas I've had about it recently. I've been thinking about what makes exposition quite effective in some of my favorite stories and some of my favorite worlds. When I initially think of what works, I think of really emotional scenes that teach you a little bit about one thing or the other, right? Exposition is like a cake of things. That's really, a story is a cake of things, and exposition is one of the ingredients, I should say. The other ingredients include things like character, dialogue, subtext, stuff like that. It's a lot. It's a lot. Often the more you can mix these things together, themes, characters, the world, then the more you can make something that feels to life. The more you can make people feel immersed into the story. I am reading Lord of the Rings right now. Elrond's council is like way longer than it is in the movie. It's like a super long chunk of the book. But it's cool because everybody's telling stories and you're getting characters out of it while you're getting exposition. Particularly, you get Bilbo telling a story about something. I don't really remember what he talked about. But in learning this story that Bulbu is telling, I think it's about the ring and Gollum. But in the middle of this story, you're getting a hint of his character, because throughout this time he's telling the story, you're being told about how he's really hammering in how to tell the story and how he's telling it really well and how he's like savoring every moment. He's telling it like a storyteller, not so much as someone giving a report of something that happened. We gotta love Bilby. People are a little more interested in learning about the characters and how they feel and what's going on in the plot right now than they do what happened or what is this thing. And yet often what the world is and the things that are in this world or in this story is so important to what's going on right now and what the characters are going through. So you need to let it in little bit by little bit, mostly through the lens of the characters and the plot, which means you can't just dump all the exposition at one time. You gotta lay it out slowly. The way I like to think of this is you gotta make people work for understanding the lore of your story. You need to give them a little piece here and a little piece here so that they can piece it together and solve a mystery almost. That's the gratification. It's the same kind of thing that you're hoping to achieve by doing this. A very solid example of how to do this quickly is, say in Avatar, you get I almost said Korra. Whoops. You get Katana over here and she's like going all woo and like the water's coming up and like you as a little kid, you're like, whoa, that's not normal. In your little kid brain, you can infer, hey, this girl can do this thing. It's a very simple mental process for a child and it works, and it's the same thing for us grown-ups. And then you get Sokka, who's like, hey, Kotono, you splashed me. I'm mad at you. And throughout the dialogue, you get to understand that Sokka does not have He don't do that. Now this is kind of the part where I go back to kind of my roots of the situation. You know, last week I talked about how I was thinking about like monsters in our real life and like how that works. So here's where I talk about exposition in our real life and what makes that effective and what makes that weird. Let me remind you of something. Maybe you're doing it right now, maybe you're not doing it right now. Maybe you should be doing it right now. When's the last time you enjoyed school? Why did you enjoy school? In many cases, school is often just a massive exposition dump, and oftentimes in the most boring way possible, because there's a lot of people who really don't care. You know, the best way to make Shakespeare's plays the most boring, most just uninteresting piece of art ever? Attend an English class. Because instead of like properly experiencing the art, you're breaking it down piece by piece, and you're being taught and told by a teacher why it works and why, and like the whole system of writing. Think about learning real world history. Real world history is so cool. It is absolutely amazing. It is filled with all sorts of amazing stories that are tragic, that are awe-inspiring, that are comedic, sometimes all three. One of my favorite history stories that is both comedic and awe-inspiring is the time that Alexander the Great saw this river and saw this naval army that was like way better than his, and so he was like, you know what? It'd be really cool if this was ground. And then he made it ground. What a Chad. But when you're in a history class, you're learning names and dates. Boring. Boring. When it comes to giving exposition, you've got to ask yourself, what makes me interested in learning something new? What do I have to be told, or what do I have to experience to be ready to want to take in more information on a certain thing? Because often in writing, we have to give exposition on a lot of things. A character's background is a form of exposition. Honestly, you could even view a character's feelings as a form of exposition. Exposition is just the things that the audience needs to understand before we move forward with the plot. And that's why we want it to be engaging. That's why we want to give pieces at a time for people to put together as they experience the story. It's why we want to mix it in with other things that can help it have the most impact. And so that's pretty much all there is for me. I didn't have too many thoughts on this, but I had enough that I wanted to share that hopefully it can help you out and hopefully be interesting to you. And that's it for me. So I don't know how to end this video.